Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Swamini Gopmati, when you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayat Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamalini Namo Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangri. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28, verses 12 to 22. Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. Text 12. When the city was set ablaze, all the citizens and servants of the king, as well as all family members, sons, grandsons, wives, and other relatives, were within the fire. King Puranjana thus became very unhappy. Text 13. The city's superintendent of police, the serpent, saw that the citizens were being attacked by Kalakanya, and he became very aggrieved to see his own residence set ablaze after being attacked by the Yavanas. Text 14. As serpent living within the cavity of the tree wishes to leave when there is a forest fire, so the city's police superintendent, the snake, wishes to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat. Text 15. The limbs of the serpent's body were slacked by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers, who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. When he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. Being thus baffled in his attempt, he began to cry loudly. Text 16. King Puranjana then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughter-in-laws, son-in-laws, servants, and other associates, as well as his household paraphernalia, and his little accumulation of wealth. Text 17. King Puranjana was overly attached to his family and conception of I and mine. Because he was overly attracted to his wife, he was already quite poverty-stricken. At the time of separation, he became very sorry. Text 18. King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by the thoughts of the family maintenance. Text 19. King Puranjana then began to think of his past dealings with his wife. He recalled that his wife would not take her dinner until he had finished his, that she would not take her bath until he had finished his, and that she was always very much attached to him, so much so that if he would sometimes become angry and chastise her, she would simply remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior. Text 20. King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in the state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsels, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs. Text 21. King Puranjana continued worrying. After I pass from this world, how will my sons and daughters, who are now fully dependent on me, live and continue their lives. Their position will be similar to that of passengers aboard a ship wrecked in the midst of the ocean. Text 22. Although King Puranjana should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavana Raja, whose name was fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madhuri. Hare Krishna. Krishna Prabhu, you can take over, Prabhu, when you're ready.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you so many, Mataji, for reading today's Srimad Bhagavatam section translation. Thank you all for giving this opportunity, and thank you all for joining today's Bhagavatam session. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28. Puranjana becomes a woman in next life. Slokas 12 to 22. So we'll start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatpadeshatarani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As yesterday, as Prabhuji mentioned, this section is very nice, and it's very important and helpful for us to understand what activities we have to do so to make our human life successful and be happy all the time. So we are in the, just to give a background, we are in the section of the Narada Muni's teachings to Prachina Barhisit. When Prachina Barhisit's sons, Prachetas, so they performed severe austerity, standing in the water, following the instructions or the prayers given by Lord Shiva. So during that time, Narada Muni met Prachina Barhisit to give this spiritual knowledge, because Prachina Barhisit is performing expertly the fruitive activities, karma kanda activities, and because those activities doesn't help one to come out from the cycle of birth and death, which is miserable. So Narada Muni wanted to help Prachina Barhisit to come out from that type of activities and take up the process of bhakti so that he can make his human life successful. Otherwise, he has to go through the repeated birth and death. So this section shows, like, how he, because of his attachment to the material things and sense gratification, how he took up another birth, the material body. So in the last session, we saw that how, so of course, Narada Muni is giving this spiritual knowledge in an indirect way, narrating the story of Puranjana. We heard like how Puranjana met a wonderful, beautiful girl and got married and enjoyed with her and got many sons and daughters. And then now he is at the verge of death. And Narada Muni is teaching all these things in an indirect way through the Puranjana story. So in the last session, we heard how the king of Yavana, whose name is Bhaya or fear, along with Jara, the old age, daughter of time, Kalakanya, and Prajvara, they all attacked the city of Puranjana, so where this Puranjana is living. Then all the citizens who were in the city, they were troubled severely. And all the family members, relatives, friends of this Puranjana, they were turning away from him. And though the Puranjana doesn't have a desire to leave the city, but he was forced to leave the city. And then we heard the Prajura set fire to the city to please his younger brother, Bhaya, or the king of Yavana. So we continue from there. And Prabhupada gives nice, wonderful purports to understand what it is for the conditioned living entity, for all of us, like a person like me, who is not sincerely, seriously into the Krishna conscious like that. So we'll start from Sloka 12. So in the 12th Sloka, we hear that when the city was set ablaze, all the citizens and servants of the king, as well as all family members, sons, grandsons, wives, and other relatives were within the fire, and King Puranjana thus became very unhappy. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that in the body, there are so many parts. Like there are karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, and there is a blood and bones. So many things are there. So they are all compared to the family members, sons, grandsons, wives, and relatives. Because this story is a allegorical way explaining the conditioned living entity situation. And when the verge of death, so all these are troubled severely. So whatever the bodily parts that we have, and when the Prajvara set up the fire, so the body temperature goes up to the 107 degrees. So and that time the body goes through so much pain. So sometimes due to that pain, one becomes unconsciousness also. Of course, that pain goes through the continues during the process of death also. So that's why Prabhupada mentions that, the modern scientists, they're inventing so many things to make the future life is a better way, but they're not focused or not endeavoring how to escape this unavoidable death or birth or old age diseases like that. So we see that here King Puranjana became very unhappy when Prajvara set the fire to the city. So in the 13th sloka, you see that the city superintendent police, the serpent, saw that the citizens were being attacked by Kalkanya and became very aggrieved to see his own residence set ablaze after being attacked by Yavanas. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the conditions living entity, so they have two bodies. So one is the gross body and one is subtle body. So the gross body, we know that it is made up of the Panchabhutas, 5 elements, like earth, water, fire, ether, air. And similarly, the subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, false ego. So when here the city superintendent police, the serpent is compared with the subtle body. So when the gross body is attacked by the Kalakanya, so the subtle body also feels pain. So because the subtle body carries the soul, so it also feels pain. So in the next sloka, we see that as a serpent living within the cavity of a tree wishes to leave when there is a forest fire. So the city's police superintendent, the snake, wished to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat. So the analogy is given here, like when the serpent who is living in the cavity of a tree, taking a shelter of a tree, but when there is a forest fire, obviously this tree will also be burnt. So before it burns, so the serpent wishes to leave. It leaves the body, that tree, and maybe it will go to a different place and take shelter of another tree. So similarly, the subtle body also, when the gross body is attacked by Prajvara, when the temperature raised up to 107 degrees, so that's called Vishnu Jwara also. So then the subtle body leaves the gross body. Of course, it will take another body if one is not completely purified. And that another body which they get is based on their past karma. Karmana Daiva Netrenaya. Based on their past karma, they will get another body. Like we have aquatics, insects, beasts, trees, plants, or birds like that. So one of the body, they will get it. But due to this gross body is no longer useful or attacked by the prajvara, so the serpent or the subtle body leaves the gross body. And in the text 15, we see that the limbs of serpent's body were slackened by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. And when he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. So because of that, he begins to cry loudly. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the last stage of the life, the different gates of the body are choked up. And there is an imbalance of the kapha pitta vayu, like the bile, mucus, and air. And because of that, the conditioned living entity has so much difficulties. He will go through so much pain, and he has a very great difficulty to express what he is going through to the family members who are surrounded by him. So that's why he cannot speak. So only some sound comes, gurgura, some that kind of sound comes. So there is so much pain at that time. So because of that so much pain, if one is not practiced Krishna consciousness from beginning or from now onwards, then it's very difficult for him to remember Krishna. So that since he doesn't remember, he will take another material body and continues the same miserable process. So that's why King Kulshekar, he prays that during the time of death, so there is so much pain in it. Prana prayana samaye kapavata pitta kantavarodhana vidau smaranau kutastu. Like, and it says that at the time of death, when my throat is choked up, so how will it be possible for me to think of you? So that's why it's better you help me to leave the body right now, where I am able to focus or where I am able to engage my mind in your lotus feet, like that. Of course, King Kulshekar is a great devotee, is a pure devotee. So he can remember. Of course, he will be able to remember Krishna all the time. But this is for us, the instruction for us, like, if we don't practice Krishna consciousness or the path of bhakti sincerely and seriously from beginning or from now onwards, and doesn't prepare ourselves, then it becomes very difficult to remember Krishna at the time of death. Then we will miss the opportunity to go back home, back to God. So, but if we practice sincerely, of course, still because of the so much pain during the process of leaving the body, if we can't remember, because we have practiced sincerely and seriously, Krishna would help us to remember him, so that we don't need to take another birth and continue the miserable life. So we can go back home, back to Godhead. And in the next sloka, here the Puranjana then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, so all these things, and also his little accumulation of wealth. So this is a situation of the conditioned living entity. So who is not engaged in the path of bhakti, so or who indulged in sense gratification all the time. And Prabhupada mentioned that it is not very surprising to be attached to the gross body or body related if one is not practiced Krishna consciousness. So we hear, like, many stories from devotees, like, there is one businessman where he worked very hard the whole life to increase his wealth or expand his business, and he had multiple centers, and he gave those centers to his sons and daughters or son-in-laws or daughter-in-laws, like that, to manage it. And he is overseeing in a high level and making sure that everything is going on fine, and his properties or the wealth is increasing, like that. And one day, due to the bodily issues, he became unconsciousness and was admitted into a hospital. And the doctors told that to the family members that he may probably leave the body soon, like, he may not live longer, like that. When he comes consciousness, we can bring him consciousness for a few minutes, and if you all want to come and talk to him, then you can do that. So all the family members came and they were next to his bedside, And then the doctors brought him into consciousness for a little time. And then this person, when he saw his all the family members, like his sons and daughters and everyone next to his bed, asked like, where is my wife, where is my daughter, so like that. So everybody thought that, he remembered them. So they were very happy. And they all said that, we are here only. So, and then he chastised them, like, if you all are here, who is taking care of my business? So like that, because he is so much attached to the wealth. So instead of um, appreciating that the family members are with him, so he's worried about his business. So that's how the conditioned living entity, and he's too much attached to the material things, he will think about only that. So that's why Prabhupada mentioned that sometimes we hear that a dying patient, so he will request doctors to save him so that he can continue his material life. Or because he's so much attached to the family members or wealth, like that. Similarly, here also King Puranjana is overly attached to his family and conceptions of I and mind, and he was overly attracted to his wife. At that time of separation, he became very sorry. So here that's continuing. We see that Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the thoughts of material enjoyment, so they will not go away, or the attachment to the material things, they will not go away even at the time of death. So, and Prabhupada mentions that due to the or under the influence of the false ego, so the conditioned living entity, he still wants to enjoy even at the verge of death. So that's why, because we have the conditioned living entity has a desire to enjoy independent of Krishna. So the subtle body carries the soul from one gross body to another gross body. So he has to accept another gross body. So the subtle body plans for material enjoyment, and the gross body, it becomes an instrument for implementing those sense gratification activities. Because of the long association with the gross body, so the living entity, it becomes very sad to be separated from it. Like how here King Puranjana, so he became very sorry to separate from the gross body, or here from his family members. And text 18, and King Puranjana is anxiously thinking, like, how my wife, who has so many children, when I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain these family members? And she will be greatly harassed by the thoughts of family maintenance. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that this shows that the King Puranjana is overly engrossed in the thoughts of a woman. And he also mentions that when wife is very chaste and very obedient to the husband, then that causes husband to be attached to his wife. Of course, if it is connected to the sense gratification, then it will bind both of them. And the husband will think about the wife at the time of leaving the body or death. So because of that, he has to take another body. And we will see in the next slokas, because he is thinking of his wife, so he accepted the body of a woman. And Prabhupada quotes the Bhagavad Gita sloka also. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejante ante kalevaram tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavika. Like, whatever the state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So here King Puranjana, because he's thinking about his wife, so he got in the next life as a woman. He got the woman body. So, and Prabhupada mentions that to escape from this repeated birth and death, so it is very much important for us to practice Krishna consciousness from now onwards, sincerely and seriously, so that while leaving the body, we can remember Krishna, and then we can go back home, back to Godhead. So in the next sloka, King Puranjana, so he is thinking about his past dealings with his wife. Like, when his wife would not take his dinner until he had finished, or she will not take her bath until he had finished. So like that, so he's thinking about his past dealings with his wives. And sometimes when he becomes angry, she would simply remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior like that. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that because the wife is supporting in the case of King Paranjana, so husband is thinking of her at the time of death. And if the husband and wife, they are attached from the sense gratification point of view, then they both will not be able to make the human life successful. So they will both be bound into this material world. But if they both are attached one another in the perspective of Krishna consciousness, like inspiring each other, then they both will get benefit, because the Krishna is the center of their activities. So otherwise, if the husband is attached to wife with respect to the sense gratification, as we see that, King Puranjana, he got the body of a woman in the next life. So similarly, if the woman is attached in the sense gratification point of view to the man, then the woman gets the man body in the next life, like that. So, and that they will continue the repeated birth and death. So in the text 20, we see that King Puranjana is continued thinking how when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs. So his King Puranjana is continuous thinking of the household life or wife or material things, those kind of things. And Prabhupada mentions that that kind of consciousness is called polluted consciousness. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, so we should always be thinking of Krishna. That then we are situated in our original consciousness. If not, then it is mentioned as a polluted consciousness, and that would lead us struggle for existence in this material world. So the mental observation of the family or bodily related things like family, relatives, social, political, so all kind of things causes bondage and forces us to go through the miserable repeated birth and death. That's what mentioned Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita, right? Yajnardhat karmano anyatra lokayam karma bandhana. Like when we do the activities for our sense gratification, for our pleasure, then that will cause the bondage, and that will push us or force us the miserable repeated birth and death. So it's always dukkha. So it will put us into this miserable material world. If not, if we perform our activities for the pleasure of Krishna, then tadadda karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Like it will freed from the bondage, and then it will make us to go back home, back to God, and we will be situated in our original position where we can be happy all the time. And in the text 21, you see that King Puranjana continued worrying. So after I pass from this world, how will my sons and daughters who are now fully dependent on me live and continue their lives? And their position will be similar to the passengers aboard a ship wrecked in the midst of the ocean. And Prabhupada mentions that at the time of death, if the conditioned living entity worries about the wife and children, as if he is maintaining them, like how a CEO of the company, he worries about his company, whether it will run properly or not. Similarly, if the conditioned living entity worries about how the family will be maintained after he leaves the body, because he thinks that he is maintained like that. So because he is thinking, so he is getting another body, material body. So similarly, if a person thinks about even with respect to the country, how the country will be after he leaves the body, then he will take birth in that land. like we hear the story of that famous story of the Kailash, very known story of the Kailash story, like, where the Kailash, while he's leaving the body, he was worried about whether his sons will take care of his house very nicely or not. So because of that, what happened? He took birth in the same land, but as a dog, and he in the dog body is watching house and became a god to the house, making sure that the thieves are not entering into the house and stealing like that. And after he left the body of dog also, he took another birth as a snake, because he's worried about the wealth that he accumulated and which he buried under the ground next to his house, making sure he's protecting that in the body of a snake. Like that, when somebody is attached to the wealth or any body related things, so they have to continue the miserable repeated birth and death. Of course, Narada Muni helps him to come out from that kind of bondage. But that will be the situation if somebody is attached to the material things. So they will end up in the miserable repeated birth, death. So then next sloka, the last sloka of today. So here we see that although King Purajana should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavana Raja, whose name was Fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him. And Prabhupada mentions that we see that King Purajana is thinking about his family members, wife and children, all those things. But the death is not stopped. It's not waiting for him to finish his thoughts and all. That death will come. So it doesn't wait for anything. So that's why it is very important for us that we don't know when that moment will come for all of us. So we should be practicing this process of bhakti to make our human life successful or for our own benefit. And here Prabhupada another point mentions that King Puranjana should not have lamented, because the every individual soul is responsible for their own actions and reactions, the laws of nature, that's a karma. So for every action there is opposite and equal reactions. So it will come whether King Puranjana will worry what will happen to his wife and children, even if he doesn't worry also. So whatever has to come will come, because for every action there is opposite and equal reaction. So his wife and children, they have their own karma, so that they will go through, whether it is good or bad. So that's why Prabhupada mentioned that it's very important for the head of the house or any member of the house members, household life members. So they have to help each other or train the family members to progress in the path of bhakti. They practice and they inspire others also to move or progress in the path of bhakti, so that whatever the reactions that we have in the past will be burnt away, it will go away, and then we can become closer to Krishna. So instead of bound by this material, the reactions more and more, so we bond up or we get rid of those reactions and become closer to Krishna. So that is the thing that one should do, inspire the family members, and they will help. When they are in the path of bhakti, they will also inspire him. So that way he will also be getting benefited. That's why Prabhupada says that one should help others to progress in the path of bhakti, and at the same time they practice so that they can conquer the death. So one should learn how to conquer the death. So that is the actual duty of a living entity, not indulge in the sense gratification activities. So that can be done through the process of bhakti. Like as Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tvakta deham punarjanma naiti mamiti suvachi. Like when we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, or listen Krishna's pastimes, or the activities of acharyas, which inspires us to do more Krishna consciousness activities, or make sure all our activities are centered Krishna consciousness. So that would help us to not to get any other gross body or material body. Karta deham punarjanmana iti mamiti suvarchana. Like we will not get another material body. So that should be our duty of the conditioned living entity. That should be our goal of the human life. So when we move in towards that direction, then we are using this gross body or the material body in a in perfect way, and that is the success of the human life. So that's what Prabhupada mentions in this sloka. So I'll pause it here. Thank you all for giving the opportunity. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vranda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Krishna Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Hare